From the actual truth behind some of the most surreal beats in recent WWE history, to tiny tidbits that will change the way you look at legendary sequences forever. Just when you thought you had all the wrestling answers, these entries prove that there was actually much more going on than you ever really knew. Gareth here from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 wrestling moments that aren't what they seem. Number 10, Ric Flair wasn't supposed to take the mic. At a glance, seeing the Nature Boy share the ring with fellow one-time Evolution member and protege Randy Orton, before being verbally and physically battered by the Apex Predator during a Performance Center edition of Raw back in August 2020, was a segment that appeared to go completely to Savage plan. However, as eventually noted by the Viper himself, this veteran actually had other unexpected ideas for the promo segments on the night. Speaking to the media in the lead up to that year's SummerSlam, Orton would admit that the plan was never for Flair to take hold of the mic and cut his own moving promo. As he put it, "You were supposed to see our facial expressions and get an idea that he was bringing me back in, and eventually we had the hug and I turned on him. But when he grabbed the mic, I was thinking, come on Rick, you're not supposed to grab the mic." But then he went on to cut that promo and it was very touching. It may not have been supposed to go down, but both WWE and Orton happily ran with Flair's detour. And it's hard to argue against said passionate speech, adding a bit more emotional weight to the eventual emphatic shot to the nads. Number 9, Bryan Danielson was trying to get fired on talking smack. Sure, the reality of not being able to witness Bryan Danielson kick people's heads in from 2016 to 2018 was a bit of a bummer, but his enforced time away from in-ring competition did at least gift folks with the chance to see a then Daniel Bryan having the time of his absolute life talking unfiltered smack on the titular post-SmackDown Live talk show. Or so it may have seemed. In actual fact, the now AEW sensation would later reveal to fellow one-time Talking Smack host Renee Paquette on her The Sessions podcast that he was actively trying to get himself fired a lot of the time fans tuned in to watch his antics on the show. Take the hilarious incident involving Bryan going out of his way to remind folks about when SmackDown used to boast its beloved Big Silver Fist set, noting how he used to think, man, SmackDown is really into fisting, for example. This was the American Dragon trying his hardest to give WWE a reason to let him go and wrestle outside of a company that refused to medically clear him, as were his hilarious references to James Ellsworth's huge hog. Number 8, an accidental pinfall actually ended a program Kurt Angle was not a fan of. Jumping back to Judgment Day 2005, Booker T managed to find a way to go 2-0 against the Olympic gold medalists thanks to a cheeky roll-up out of nowhere. Far from being an inspired pre-planned swerve, however, Kurt Angle would later confess on his Kurt Angle Show podcast that referee Charles Robinson accidentally hit a 3 count on the night. The wrestling machine wasn't exactly gutted about the botch though, with the program itself, which saw him uncomfortably stalk Buck's wife Charmel for a spell, being one he wasn't crazy about to begin with. So the fact this unplanned dominating of said feud brought a swift end to the program was actually music to Angle's ears, with the former world champion eventually confessing upon looking back on the controversial rivalry, "I probably should have told Vince no on the Booker T angle." You can say that again, Kurt. Number 7, Stone Cold Steve Austin reveals the truth about his beer truck. Brace yourselves, one of your fondest childhood memories may be about to unravel over the course of this next entry. Okay, that might be a bit of a stretch, but Stone Cold Steve Austin's throwaway words on some of the behind-the-scenes facts that went into his iconic beer truck invasion of Monday Night Raw back in 1999 may still come as a bit of an unwanted surprise to some. As the Texas Rattlesnake would recall to the Brew Barn podcast, the liquid that drenched his arch-rival The Rock in the lead-up to their WrestleMania 15 clash over the WWF Championship wasn't entirely made up of good old Steve Weiser. In Austin's own words on the legendary segment, "I remember arriving in the building, Vince or somebody is saying, 'Hey man, you're gonna drive a beer truck into the arena and hose down the Rock.' I bumped the ring with it and the first 30 gallons that came out was actually beer and then it turned into water." So there you have it. After utterly dousing his boss with beer and drenching the Great One in lager for 30 gallons straight, it was actually nothing more than humble H2O being rained down on the former chairman of the board and co. Number 6, Bryan Danielson didn't actually get caught up in his final WrestleMania moment. Closing out the biggest show of the year is pretty high up on the list of dreams just about every wrestler working today would hope to fulfill down the road. Yet when it came time to go on last back at the Show of Shows in 2021, Bryan Danielson has actually admitted to a feeling of detachment during his WrestleMania 37 Universal Championship showdown with Roman Reigns and Edge. As the former WWE champion would confess to BT Sports, "When I'm wrestling, I feel everything and I feel like I really enjoy it. This was weird. I was out there and it felt like I was detached. It was so strange, in fact, that before the match started, I got this strange feeling like, is this what it's like before you die? Am I gonna die? Thankfully, Bryan most definitely did not bite the dust on the back of his strange realization on the night itself. But it's still interesting to look back on his final Mania showing, knowing he was very much experiencing an out-of-body moment under the grandest stage's bright lights. Number 5, the paradigm shift is more than just a cool finisher name. What initially appeared to be little more than a way of avoiding a lawsuit and thoroughly distancing himself from his former employers actually turned out to be a rather pointed dig at one of Jon Moxley's old bosses. As the top AEW star would reveal during his brilliant autobiography Mox, the rebranding of his one-time Dirty Deeds double underhook DDT as the paradigm shift upon stepping outside of WWE's doors was likely a shot at none other than the current head of creative himself, Triple H. The purveyor of violence would recall a story of the game asking the Shield, "Do you know what a paradigm shift is?" in what Mox classed as a patronizing way. And though the All Elite main event sensation would admit to sending a small remark back Papa H's way after finding the way he said it insulting, the pissed off BCC man seems to have gone one further in altering the name of his signature match ender as a consistent reminder to the former NXT leader that he didn't need a pep talk from the King of Kings to thoroughly change the game. Number 4, the real reason Chris Jericho got shredded recently. When Le Champion suddenly rocked up on All Elite programming earlier this year, sporting a set of abs that would make his younger Lionheart self a tad jealous, most fans were legitimately taken aback at just how quickly Chris Jericho went from dad bod to demo god bod, with some even claiming he must have installed ab implants. That was definitely not the case though, and this wasn't merely a vanity project either. Jericho actually found himself in a position towards the end of 2021 where he had the choice to lose some weight or potentially lose his life. That's all according to the former AEW World Champion himself, with the JAS leader revealing on his Talk Is Jericho podcast that in the wake of being told he had a pulmonary embolism, Jericho's doctor advised him that he needed to lose weight due to the visceral fat found around his organs. Not being one to do anything by halves, in between January and April this year, Jericho dropped a staggering 32 pounds, with the veteran also managing prescribed blood thinners whilst tentatively stepping back in between the ropes during that time too. What a wizard, eh? Number 3, the ring collapses. Sort of. Even on the back of it being thoroughly run into the ground by WWE over the years, seeing a wrestling ring get utterly destroyed by 2 falling monsters is still rather jaw-dropping, and the truth behind what actually goes into completely breaking a wrestling ring makes the entire scenario surprisingly even more impressive. Far from the squared circle simply buckling under the sheer force of 2 larger-than-life athletes crashing down with an almighty thud, the sight of said collapse is actually the result of a well-timed and brilliantly executed stunt. As one of the ring-breaking regulars himself, Big Show, would reveal on the Talk Is Jericho podcast a few years back, the ring itself is actually raised upon airbags whilst the camera is zoomed in on the performers getting ready to take the monstrous bump. Then, with the ring resembling standing on marbles, as Show put it, a stunt coordinator was on hand, Ellis Edwards, during that first ever spectacle involving Show and Lesnar on SmackDown in 2003, to bring the whole thing crashing on down. It's a thing of beauty, you could say. Number 2, the Great One wasn't keen on Kurt Angle's milk. Not for the last time in his career, a person was left thinking that Kurt Angle absolutely sucked on the back of one rather disgusting mishap back in 2001. Hot on the heels of the Olympic Heroes match with The Rock on an episode of SmackDown around this time, the former invited the latter to enjoy a swig of milk with him in the middle of the squared circle. The Great One happily obliged, the two smashed their cartons together, and Rocky took a gulp of the good stuff to the sound of cheers. Only no one had told Angle that said milk had actually been left out in a hot room for days, leading to the liquid curdling and resembling cottage cheese by the time the two shared their swig together. As Angle would also note in his Twitter revelation when discussing the matter, as you can see, The Rock spit it out, and you can hardly bloody blame him. The fact Angle fought through the wholly horrendous scenario to consume even more of the gone-off milk in the wake of Rocky's exit also deserves to be saluted looking back. Rather you than me, Kurt. Number 1, Charlotte Flair threw the belt accidentally. Charlotte Flair's refusal to play nice with Becky Lynch during October 22nd, 2021's edition of SmackDown, a night that involved the Raw and SmackDown Women's Champions having to swap belts, was quickly followed by a wave of behind-the-scenes reports on the matter, and with it being said that the pair legitimately clashed backstage in the aftermath, and the man even confessing that she had a feeling Flair was going to go into business for herself beforehand, it was safe to to assume that said controversial belt drop was entirely intentional. Well, in an unexpected turn of events, the Queen herself has shed further light on the intriguing subject, telling Steve Austin during her recent Broken Skull Sessions appearance that the catalyst for the chaos was actually accidental. In Flair's words, "I wish I could sit here and tell you that I did it on purpose, but if people need me to be that bad guy, I'll be that bad guy. Things happen on screen. I would never go on a scripted television show and purposely do something on purpose. It was accidental." I get the feeling, even almost a year on from the event itself, fans have not heard the last of this particular drama. And long may it rumble on. And that's our list of any other wrestling moments that are not what they seem. Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, be sure to head on over to whatculture.com and find some more awesome articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on, and I would know because guess who wrote it? I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Thank you as always for clicking on this lovely video today. Hopefully I'll see you very, very soon, but in the meantime, be good to yourself. Bye-bye!